We are here in Indy to meet one of the most amazing artists, not just artist, but also art educator and lawyer. His story and his art is going to amaze you. Let's go meet him.
My name is Justin Vining, and I'm a full-time artist, and I work out of the Harrison Center for the Arts in Indianapolis, Indiana. There are three main influences in my work. The first would have to be my childhood, growing up on a family farm in small-town America. Obviously has influenced the content of my work. The second would have to be my 3 years teaching elementary school art. I absolutely loved being surrounded by the young creative minds of my students. And the third would have to be the artists who have come before me. Vincent van Gogh, Thomas Hart Benton, Grant Wood. These guys greatly influenced my work, and especially in my watercolors. All three of these influences can readily be seen. First, the content. Most of them are rural landscapes, obviously with a whimsical twist, but the rural influence is there. The second, most of them are direct appropriations of Van Gogh. I mean, the compositions themselves, the angles, the lines, they're derivative of his. The third, the bright, bold colors, the dynamic movement, and my favorite part, the fun, surprising elements. Those are directly influenced by my former students. I knew growing up that I was either going to be a farmer or something else. And as I was going through high school, I decided I didn't want to become a farmer. And I was thinking about what cool jobs are out there. And I was like, man, I want to be an art teacher. That's the coolest job in the world. My 3 years as an elementary school art teacher, I think you can really see the evidence of my former students' influence in my work. From there, I was at that 3-year point in teaching, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. And my little brother gave me a call, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna go to law school. And it sounded fun, sounded great, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this too. During my first semester of law school, I needed a break from the books, and I picked up a paintbrush, and I painted 7-ish paintings that were significantly stronger than anything I'd done before. And I sold them pretty quick, and all of a sudden it got the ball rolling, so I did it again and did it again. And by the time I graduated law school, I had sold hundreds of pieces all over the country. And I felt like if I wanted to realize this career, every second that I let pass was time wasted, and the harder it would become to make it a reality.
Are you sketching these all out and thinking about those, or is it just like a level of craft that you just really enjoy?
So both. Some of them I do start with very quick primitive sketches, just to make sure I have a strong composition. And I use those building blocks to build some of these compositions. Not all, but some. And so a lot of times I'll start there, and then the rest is kind of freestyling. As a young artist living off my work, I schedule a very aggressive show schedule, and with that comes just an extreme work ethic. I mean, I'm in the studio pretty much every single day. The artist next door is a big ping pong player, so we turn my studio desk right here into a ping pong table, and we usually play a best of 5 just to get the heart rate up and finish my cup of coffee. And then right around 10 a.m.-ish, I pull out the paints and work till probably about 3 and 4 in the afternoon, and then go home, walk the dogs, and kind of just have a normal evening like everyone else. In show season, completely different. I put in a solid 12-hour-ish time, really focused, and then do it all again. And some days are longer than that. Going to law school, I was surrounded by more entrepreneurial, business-minded people that helped me see not just creating beautiful art, but they taught me how to both market it, but then build a business around it. There is a balance to be struck between creating marketable, sellable art and personal exploration, creating for the sake of creating, and putting marketability aside.
Tell me about these like beautiful charcoal pictures that you're working on, and how you got motivated to make them.
I just moved into a new neighborhood, just a few blocks away from my art studio. So I oftentimes either walk or ride my bike here, and usually early in the morning when the light is exceptional, or in the evening when it's also exceptional. And as an artist and a visual person, being drawn in by these new surroundings, I've really felt compelled to capture that. These are actually a little bit different for me in the sense that I've tried to capture accurate proportions. I generally don't try so hard to do that.
Right.
I generally...
It's very realistic for what you do.
Yeah, I might, when I turn them into paintings, maybe skew the perspective and exaggerate it a bit.
Right.
I may not. I haven't entirely decided how far I'm gonna push it, but for now, I just felt compelled to completely change it up, tighten everything up, do more accurate perspective, and be really inspired by the beautiful surroundings of this new neighborhood. Looking back at my experience in middle school and high school, I never would have considered myself one of those kids that was the best artist in class. In fact, I think that's why I was drawn to art education, because you could be passionate about art, but you didn't necessarily have to have an extreme skill level to be successful doing it. You just had to love it. Through years of hard work and pushing myself to improve, I've been able to maybe go past that, and I think creating successful work now.
My favorite part of the painting process would have to be the last part. It's that part where I put in all the details and you can really see all the hard work come together. My compositions generally from the onset, they're pretty simple. And from far away, generally you're just like, well, yes, that's a landscape. But what I love to do, and this really doesn't happen until the very end, is I love to load these things full of just tiny, intentional, intricate detail. And once the viewer gets pulled into the piece, once you start really more closely inspecting these paintings, you're really going to start to see a lot of detail that is lost from the 5 foot mark or farther. And that's really where I have the most fun, is once all the work is done and the composition's laid out, everything's ready to go, it's really pulling this thing back together in the last 5-10% of the piece, and it just, I don't know, it brings it to life, and to me it totally changes in that last step. Even though the difference is subtle, it makes it, and that's really when I get the most excited. And sometimes at the end of paintings you'll see me jumping up and down because I just get so excited that all this hard work has finally come together in such a cool way.
In the center of Meridian Street, a lady watches over town. She wears freedom for a crown. In the center of Market Street, a lady watches with a frown. If they come, she'll come down. Your sister to the east stands tall for liberty. Your sign of victory reminds us we are free. The shackles of slavery are already buried. In the center to remind us of the places. Civilization, your sister to the east stands tall for liberty, your sign of victory reminds us we are free. The shackles of slavery are already buried. The shackles of slavery are already buried.
I don't know about you, but I love how Justin is redefining what an abstract landscape looks like, and certainly his use of vibrant colors contrasting with the black and white. I'm going to try my hand at this idea and pretty much work from my imagination. Let's take a look at what we're going to need. First thing is watercolor paper. It's about 105-pound paper, which is pretty thick. Next thing we need is watercolor paints or watercolor tray, whichever is fine. Third, brushes, water, and paper towels, of course. Fourth, I have a permanent black marker with a pretty fine tip. Last, our idea printed out and a pencil for lightly sketching. Let's get started. As you're sketching, don't forget to push lightly. Eventually you might want to erase this, or you want to make sure that the pencil doesn't show through the watercolor paint. It may not seem like I'm using much paint, but this watercolor paint in the tube is very concentrated, so a little bit goes a long way. One technique I'm using here is wet on wet, where you take a brush with water and paint water, and then paint watercolor paint on top of it. One thing you have to remember with watercolor painting is that the paper will absorb some of the color as it dries. So don't be afraid to go pretty bold, but also make sure that it still stays transparent. That's key. As you see me use this marker very slowly, I'm concentrating on using the very tip of the marker only. That way I make a nice, clean, thin line. Alright, I'm going to stop for now, but one thing you can see is how difficult it is skewing the perspective, as well as how difficult it is using one of these fine tip markers. I have a whole lot of respect for what Justin is able to create, but it's a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what you create. So remember, be creative, be innovative, and be outrageous.